Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Be here. I've been on the other side, now in the hot seat. Is that what you call it?
We call it the hot seat.
Okay.
But I think you're going to do just great.
Well, I'm on the other side of the interview seat this time. I usually interview other people.
That's right. So maybe I'm in the hot seat.
Yes.
Maybe you're going to turn this around on me, and I don't even know it. The way we like to start these things is just get a little bit of background on where you grew up. And let's ask the first question, what did your parents do for work?
I always reference my parents whenever I talk about kind of my childhood and my upbringing. So my dad was from Denmark, came over, the true American dream. He dreamed of bigger things, creating his own company, his own life. And he was an entrepreneur, so started his own company in the food business. And met my mom at a bar called Hook, Line, and Sinker. No,
Nice.
I don't know what, you can't make those stories up.
Mission complete of that bar, right?
Mission
That's
complete.
it.
And so my mom as well started her own company, so it was always ingrained in me to this, whole mentality of doing your own thing and doing what you love and starting your own company.
Yeah, so let's fast forward a bit. You graduate from Appalachian State.
I did.
You got that right.
Yes.
Your first job is in recruiting.
It was.
On purpose or a mistake? Or not a mistake, but on purpose or like just a job?
I think if you ask any recruiter, truly, you kind of fall into recruiting. I know that sounds crazy, but no one is in a business school saying, we're going to teach a class on recruiting. It was, it's a business opportunity. You can get into sales, but guess what? You're starting in recruiting. And I'm actually so fortunate and glad that happened because it taught me so many life lessons that I would have never known before. So fell into it a little bit.
Yeah. You started at Aerotech.
Aerotech, yes.
Give me a life lesson. What's something practical that you took away from Aerotech?
I think that you really look for how to read someone, right? So I was on the phone, and you don't have that, physical cues when you're talking to someone. You're on the phone trying to pick up these cues when you're recruiting someone, and I really have taken that throughout my life. My nanny, actually, I took her through the entire interview process. I was like, this is where recruiting's coming into play, right? She did a shadow day, and I interviewed her, so that was something I really took away from those early years.
I spent 2.5 years working remotely at IBM on the phone, way too much, and I probably wish I met you earlier to tell me how to acclimate to people on the phone.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. So that is what took you to Charleston, correct?
Yes, I started the office for Charleston here for Aerotech.
Okay, what was that experience like? When you say started the office, was your task really go to Charleston and build a business, or was it just find talented people and send them back to the companies we already work with?
No, it was interesting because we were working in the Charleston market, which was very different. This is back in 2003, and the economy was much different as well, as everyone knows. It was a down economy, and we were fighting to get clients and try to drum up this business. And I literally had my account manager at the time say, we have this opportunity to open an office in Charleston, South Carolina. And really early on during all my training in Red S School, I had this quote on my desk that was Emerson, and it said, do not follow a path, blaze a trail, something of that sort. And it always stuck with me, and I was like, this is my opportunity to make my own trail. So, that's how I made it to Charleston.
How successful were you in growing the business or starting the business in Charleston?
I would say very successful. They're one of the number one in the region right now, I think. Now 14 years later. It was just a booming, it was a lot of government DOD, and Charleston was ripe. There wasn't a lot of recruiting companies that were really tapping into the Charleston market, which is crazy now to think because there's a plethora.
Yeah, so many, right?
Yeah. So I think that it was really successful. We grew to the office to before I left, about 15 people.
Wow.
And now I want to say there's close to 30.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you kicked some butt building Aerotech here, but then one day you met a character named Eric Bowman.
I did.
And
yes.
he may or may not have changed your life from that point forward. So how did you meet Eric? And let's start with that. How did you meet Eric?
Yeah.
And one more question. What did you see in Eric? And let me say, Eric is the founder of Spark. Christina was the first employee to join Spark. So what did you see in Eric that made you literally bet your career on him?
So funny story. I actually met Eric right when I started with Aerotech. I hired him in his first position ever out of college. So yeah, here I am, like trying to figure out this career, and I'm hiring this software developer, and his name's Eric Bowman, and I meet him for the first time, and I'm trying to get to know his network and his company and everything. And then it took us a little while, but we became friends, and so we became friends, got to know each other, and then fast forward 7 years, and he was starting Spark. So I knew him personally, and I think that's a big part of startups. You know who you tap into your personal network.
Sure.
And who you trust. Eric is a very passionate individual, and he had vision. He gave me a lot of freedom to do what I wanted to do, and we had a lot of mutual trust, so it was both ways.
Yeah.
I trusted him, he trusted me, and he saw the passion that I had, so I think it was a mutual connection and relationship.
Yeah. Do you remember, so in my startup in kind, like when we're recruiting people, we are trying to sell them on the dream, right? Like we don't have all the money in the world right now. We need the most talented people. So I spent a lot of time selling the dream. Do you remember when Eric was recruiting you, what that dream he was selling?
I do, and I think that it was part of my job to also sell that dream to future employees. So, the dream to me was I always wanted to make a huge impact on a company. And I'd worked for Fortune 500s. I'd worked for a, $4 billion recruiting company. And I think the vision or the dream is that you can really, truly make an impact. And there's not a history there. So you can really say, this is what we want to do, and this is what we believe it should be. And I think to a lot of people, that's exciting. And if it's not, they shouldn't be part of your company, right? They shouldn't be part of a startup. Without
question. So you're the first employee. He sells you on the dream. You're bought in. Your values and your mission, everything's aligned, right? You're gonna go kick butt with Spark.
Right.
Was that what it was called at the time?
Spark. It was Spark.
It
It still is. Yeah.
I don't know. A while ago, it may have had a different name. You're the fourth employee.
Actually,
Second employee.
But yeah.
Did you know how to code?
Oh, no. I still don't know how to code. There's no, ghost in the back of the corner. I still don't know how to code.
So for people here that want to join startups and they want to understand how they can provide value, what are some of the things that you did really early on to provide value to Eric and Spark?
I think early on just said, I will do whatever it takes to make this company successful. If I have to learn accounting, which I did, if I have to, keep the lights on, if I have to manage, the Verizon account, I just did whatever it took to keep them in business and to support the company, right? They were the engineers. They were the ones doing the magic every day. And I just told them, like, let's make this happen, right? Let's do whatever it takes. And to support a CEO is the same way. What can I take off of your plate to make sure that you're successful? So that was, and I tried to learn everything I could. I mean, I literally was immersed in interviews. I would sit down with them and try to learn the language and what it takes to be successful. And I think that really paid off.
How long do you think it took to hit your stride in that crazy role of just filling gaps and providing value wherever you can?
I'll say it was probably at least a year, and I think that was just any startup in general. It takes a while to really hit your stride, right? You're trying to set up process. I mean, you're setting everything up from really the ground up, and you're just iterating. This may not work. This may work. This doesn't work. Let's throw it to the trash, right? So I think it was really a year until I felt really good about what we were doing and comfortable in my role.
Yeah. Were there any, stories that come to mind that first year where you're like, I am not at the big company Aerotech anymore. Like, this is way different. The startup world is totally different than what I just came from. And what was that like?
Yeah. The crazy stories you hear about startups, I think in general, worrying about making payroll. That was a very real concern that we had a lot. And
did you ever miss?
No, you had to hold it back maybe a few days, right? And you had those key individuals that we had to say, we're not going to make it this time. We have to wait, a few days. I would be sitting in clients' offices waiting for them to pay the check, to take it to the bank. You hear these stories on movies, but that was very real to us back then. So I think, being part of a multi-billion-dollar company, not worrying about where your paycheck was coming from, versus at the time, my husband was on severance and without a job. It was,
Did you ever question the decision, or you always felt like you were gaining ground and
I never questioned it, and I think a lot of people, even my parents were like crazy, and what's going on? Like, what are you doing? But I never questioned it. I always believed that it was going to become something, and if it didn't, we would figure something else out. Like, I would have just followed another dream or figured something else out.
Do you think that mentality is necessary for people that are joining early stage startups?
Absolutely. You can't have the fear of wondering, like, if this isn't going to make it, or what am I doing? My world is going to end, right? You just have to believe in what the vision is and the future, and know that it's going to happen, right? Surround yourself with successful people.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. So in preparation for this, I've spoken to a number of Spark folks who, of course, had wonderful things to say about you. I heard your nickname was the Queen. True or false? I love it. I love the nickname. I won't ask you why yet.
Don't ask why.
But one of the things you are well known for in the company is the culture that you cultivated and you created amongst Spark to make it one of the most attractive places to work in Charleston. Was that intentional, or was that something that just came about based on the people that you were hiring?
Oh, no, that was definitely intentional. And I think, how we cultivated that was sitting down and talking about core values. And the core values are always intrinsic of the people that are at that table. So what do you believe in? And a lot of times we have that conversation with candidates, and they say, well, I want to believe in this company. I want to believe in their values and their vision and everything that they stand for. So it's very much intentional. And I think the deliberate part and the intentional part was the people that we hired and making sure that they fit those core values. And they wanted to contribute to those also.
Yeah. At what stage in the company did you intentionally set about creating culture?
Day one.
You did what?
What
did you do day one?
I think it's something as easy as sitting around, around the table, drinks or whatever, fit your culture, and saying, tell me about your personal values and your personal core values, because those are very, I think, indicative of the team that you have. Even at Catch, it took us about 20 minutes to come up with our core values, which is, I just have an incredible team, and we've known each other for a long time, but we're like, this is what we believe in, this is what we're going to do, and these are the people we're going to hire. And I think that just having those conversations is what can spin up those type of core values.
Did the culture change from day one Spark to year 5 Spark?
Yeah, of course. Culture isn't something that is ever going to be, it's just dogs in the office or beer in the back. It evolves with the company as it grows, and that's okay. I think you have to evolve as you grow, right? It shouldn't be the same culture and we got a lot of that feedback as Spark was growing. It was, the culture's changing and whatnot. Well, it has to evolve to fit the size company that you are. But if you stay true to what you believe in and that people, culture's organic in that manner, I think that's what it has to be.
I want to just go a little deeper because I'm really interested in this specifically. When you say the culture can adapt from day 1 to year 5, and I imagine there's some things that you want to stay the same, right? There are some values that you really believe in, but there are other parts of culture that can adapt. Can you be a little bit more specific in terms of where you were flexible with the culture versus things that were consistent from day 1 to year 5?
Yeah, so specifically we had, in terms of benefits and culture, we always had free beer, right? That was something that always stayed, and people were really passionate about beer.
In all seriousness, was that important? If that wasn't there, would the culture have been the culture?
No, I don't think so, right? And I think the underlying, if you're talking from HR or leadership, it was treating professionals like adults, right? You're an adult. If you want to have a beverage at the end of the day, then enjoy. You've worked hard, and we believe in you as an individual. Unlimited paid time off was a big one that we never changed. And that was, again, I think, trusting your employees and trusting these people to do for the greater good of the company.
Yeah.
I think there were things that had to adapt a little bit, like the dog policy. Just having dogs around the office all day, they're going to do their own thing. So we had to create a a guideline around having dogs in the office, but
God, you're so corporate now.
Oh no, right? I know. Not really. I'm very.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, that's interesting and good detail. Thank you. Do you have any insight into? I know Spark was bootstrapped, right?
Yes.
For the entire time.
The entire time.
Did you ever consider taking funding while you were there?
Yes, I mean the acquisition of Booz Allen, we were also considering funding at that time. So it was either going to be a large investment funding or it was going to be an acquisition. I think for us, it enabled a lot of control. You know, we didn't have investors or anyone that we were reporting to or that we had to answer to. So for us, it worked out. If you can do it, it's great.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
Looking back, it's hard. You're very successful bootstrapping. But if you were to do it all over again, would you have taken funding earlier on to ease some of those early year pains, or would you have done it the same way?
I think I would have done it the same way. And I know, it's easier looking back than being in the trenches of it all and thinking how you could scale by taking on investment. For us, it became more about, though, being bootstrapped, that it's a little bit more about the company and the culture versus actually worrying about, a fancy office or having, the greatest. It's about the people and the culture more so than worrying about where else you're going to put your money.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, you mentioned Booz acquired Spark.
Yes.
I think we all know that. Describe what that's like. For all of us in the room that have startups, like that is a lot of what we're working so hard today for. So like what is that experience like after working so hard and sacrificing so much to actually see a successful exit?
I think it's what we all set out for and what we all dreamed of. Our goal was to be acquired one day. We really wanted to build something that someone else wanted to purchase, and I think that's the goal of a lot of entrepreneurs. I think for me, and maybe it's because I'm a mom or a female, but Spark was like my child, and I have a child, so it was very emotional to watch this company that I had grown and been a part of for so long. I don't remember the month of October at all.
Total blackout.
It was a little bit of a blackout because there was so much going on, and I think that it was really surreal when it all happened, and then after the fact to not be part of it again was really strange for me. Was it like relief though? Was it like you would think
this we made it, like we literally made it, and I could pick my head up and take a deep breath and focus on what's next, or what was that day? I don't know. Like it seems so out there and such a rare occurrence that most people go through.
It was a lot. It was the excitement.
Just total blackout.
Yes, not total blackout. It was a little bit of that relief that we had made it. We had finally a lot of celebration. We had sold this company that we'd all put so much time and effort in. A little bit of just again loss. That you were leaving this company that you've been a part of for so long. But I'm so proud of the legacy and where it still is that it feels like it lives on a little bit. So
I think that's a testament to a lot of the work that you did. That it does live on in such a great way.
Yeah.
But you weren't done.
No.
You didn't have an exit and move to Sullivan's and call it a career.
I wish.
You did what a lot of us are doing and just started over. So
yes. About 2 days later.
About 2 days later. What's the story behind why you decided to start Catch?
I think I tell a lot of people this. Spark was my MBA, right? I learned so much from being a part of a startup. Everything, the finances, scaling a company, everything that it takes, the people part of it, and I wanted to take that out into the community. Charleston is vibrant and growing, and I really saw a gap in the market, and I think it had always been my dream to start something on my own.
So what'd you start?
November 2nd, yes.
Okay.
So it was literally, I think, 2-3 days later. There's a weekend in between.
Good. You earned that weekend. Good. Congrats.
Yeah.
So then, in case anyone doesn't know, which I doubt is the case, but what is Catch Talent?
So we are a technical recruiting and employer branding company. So we work across technology, manufacturing, and DoD companies.
Okay. So you leave Spark, you start Catch. What is the first thing you do?
There were a lot of phone calls.
To who?
All of the...
Your mom, I'm starting another company.
Right. Those happened well before. I think a lot of the partners and relationships I built over the 6 years I was at Spark, just letting them know, and it wasn't, hey, let's do business. It was, here's what's happening, and I want to let you know, industry partners, and that was really the first day. I think it was more the communication and letting people know. A lot of people are like, what? Weren't you just at Spark? But I think the overwhelming support was really the response we got.
Did you validate the market before you made the decision?
Absolutely. I mean,
in what way?
I think we were seeing a lot of growth in a lot of the technology companies locally. They were getting funding. You talk about, Fish Labs, Boomtown's building a new office, Blue Acorn. I mean, you have all these vibrant technology companies, Volvo's moving in. There's just a huge need for talent, and the supply is far, I should say the demand is far outweighing the supply.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how many people did you recruit to join you initially?
3.
3.
Yep, and they started all within a month. So one was on day one, which was Chad, my CMO, and then I had known Ashley and Thomas for about a decade. They both came from Aerotech.
Okay.
So I knew they had been through the school of hard knocks, and
Yeah, they could handle what was coming.
Yeah.
So what's the vision today? Or like when you set out to start Spark 6 months ago, what's the vision? Like in 5 years, what do you want to do with Catch?
Take over the recruiting industry.
Okay.
Build an app that will. I think our vision is to move into different markets. We're going to obviously saturate Charleston, our backyard. We have clients up and down the East Coast already, but I think moving into different markets and also treating this like a software company. We're very agile. I don't necessarily need a brick and mortar to be in another location, so we're treating it very much like a software company.
What would you describe as your competitive advantage?
That we are agile and innovative, right? And we've also built a company. I know what it's like to be on the other side. I know what it's like to be part of an HR and recruiting company, and to have other companies, recruiting companies, come to you and try to work with you. And I think we are more of a strategic partner than just a vendor. Yeah,
I've heard that about Catch and others, but the fact that you're an extension of the company and not just looked at as an agency to come in and solve a problem, I think is really powerful.
It is.
Let me ask you this. So I have a friend from business school who has a startup in New York, and his startup is, he works with all these different companies, and once a week he sends them emails of people that are interested in the different roles. So he says, like, you could apply to a startup in 60 seconds. That's like his pitch on the supply side, demand side, whatever side, to get the people that want the jobs.
Yes.
And then he has like this monthly subscription fee where these large tech companies pay him to give them qualified leads.
Okay.
In my mind, like super innovative for the recruiting industry, which has mainly stayed like the same for many years.
It has.
How do you look at these innovative startups in the recruiting space, and do you see them as a threat or something totally different?
We're trying to disrupt the industry, whether it be an app or the way that we interact with clients. We have a lot of interesting ideas, and we have the ability to do it. Does it make business sense? Then we are going to do it. Thinking about your friend's specific app and the way that he goes about it, it's human nature, right? It's very difficult to, I think, look at a candidate and say, in 60 seconds he's going to be available and ready. Yeah. When it's not just a gear or a widget or an iPhone that's going to do what you want all the time. It's a human being that has a million different factors going on in their lives, and I think you really can't take that people factor out of recruiting.
Yeah, I like that answer. So I won't press you.
Okay.
What did you find going back to starting Catch? What's just been like the main difference from being the second employee to like actually being accountable as the CEO?
That's a good question. I think that I very much felt a sense of ownership at Spark. So in a lot of ways, I feel like, if Spark's doors were to close, or if it was going to be successful, it was going to be my success. And I say this to my team now, like, Catch's success is our success, not just mine. So I think the only difference really is I think, and I shared this with a client today, honestly, because they asked, what has been the most difficult part in the past 6 months is that everyone needs my time. So whether it's a candidate or a client or my accountant, everyone needs my time. And I think it's that ability to delegate and scale. That's been the biggest.
Has that been a learning curve, or you feel like you've been prepared based on the craziness of what you went through at Spark to handle that?
Yeah, I think it's been a little bit of a learning curve. Because then I get home, and you'll soon find this. Then my toddler's like, "I need your attention." So I think it's just my ability to transfer relationships a little bit has been the biggest difference.
I don't know if you see this. Laura would vouch for me. I go home and I just want to make no decisions. It's like all day you're making decisions, and I just want to go home and just no more decisions. And I don't know if you see that or not, but maybe you're better at it than I am.
It's changing soon, my friend.
that it is. My wife and I are pregnant, so we have a baby on the way that's coming in July, and things will change.
For the better, yes. But
of course, for the better. So what's the exit for Catch? Is there an exit for Catch? Is this something you want to do forever, or is there an endpoint?
I think this is what I've always wanted to do. This is what we've all always wanted to do. So I don't think there's a calculated exit like with a software company, right? It's like create this awesome product, get acquired, get a lot of funding. I think for us, we love what we do. We love the relationships that we build and the network. I think for us, as long as we can make this a successful, vibrant company, we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm never going to say never, right? I mean, if some large company, maybe Aerotech wants to reclaim their stake and buy us out one day and the price is right, I'm never going to say no.
Do you believe in employee stock options?
I do.
Good answer. All right, one more topic, and then we're going to open it to questions. So I don't know if you guys all saw, this is Female Founders Month for Startup Grind all over the country. So we have 200 chapters all over the world. Every single one is working to host a female founder this month, which is cool. So I want to ask you, being a female founder, being a woman in tech, have you found that has played a role in your career?
Yes, and I think for the better. There's a real sense of community around female entrepreneurs and women in technology, right? I think people are very supportive, and they see a great opportunity. Female owners and entrepreneurs bring a completely different aspect to an organization, whether it's a board or a leadership team or as a founder and CEO. And so I think there's a real shift now. I think it's for the greater good, right? And we're definitely in a minority for leadership, and it's been nothing but support and community.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you seen where people or companies can improve?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think I'll say, just from being, a mom, and also in general, I think it's difficult for female women in tech to feel like they're part of the boys club, right? Like there's a lot, it's male dominated and that sort of thing, but I think that you have to just own it and be an advocate, which is definitely, I'm a big advocate for women in technology. I'm on the board for Charleston Women in Tech, and I've mentored through CYP, so I think you have to go out and empower these women and find a mentor that's going to, build you up and believe in you.
Charleston Women in Tech is amazing.
I'm
so jealous of them and you, because we've been doing Startup Grind for 2 years, and we work so hard to bring all of you to the event. You guys had your first or second event, there was 200 RSVPs and women that went.
Yes, and there's over 800 members. So, at any given event, we'll have 200 to 300 women in tech, and it's, I think we want that support. We want to empower each other, and I think in any community you're going to get that, but also having the mentorship is really a big part of that.
Yeah, well, congrats on the initial success. That is so awesome.